Okie dokie. I think we're live. I think we are live. Fantastic. Woohoo. Let's make sure that the YouTube is active, and it is. All right. So let's share these around with everybody. Copy event link. Actually, let's just send everybody to the YouTube. That's probably the best one. Uh, Looks the best. It's easy to access. Let's copy that and put this in the Discord for other people. Check out the stream in HD here. There we go. What's up, man? How you doing? How you doing?
Great.
Good.
Glad to be here. So excited.
Happy you're here. Does the stream still say first ever listening party? Because it shouldn't. It should say Q&A.
Yes.
Oh, it still does. That's all right. I can fix that. Let's do that. Edit this. Weekly Q&A. June 17th, 2021. All right. Excited. I've definitely learned quite a bit in the past little while about some things, and I want to kind of go over that. I feel like everybody could benefit from that. Talking about like monitor calibration specifically, I feel like that's going to be a topic if people start coming in. Definitely want to get into that at some point. So let's just see if anybody pops in, and if they do, we will answer their mixing and mastering questions for free, like we do, and encourage them to become students so they won't have to have these questions asked in the first place. All right. All right. So, have you been working on music? What's your situation?
I have. I just met a mutual friend who wants to be an artist, and I'm telling him I want to be a mixing and mastering engineer. At least one song. Then I can sleep happily at night.
Yeah.
Um, and we've been trading ideas back and forth, and he keeps on asking me like, "Why are you helping me?" And I was like, "Because every time I help you, you help me, and like you give me art back, and I give back to you, and then we learn a little bit from each other, and it's just a nice symbiotic relationship."
Yeah.
Also, he knows a different language than I do, so
He knows a different
I help
language. You
him.
mean
Yeah,
he speaks Spanish or something?
nah, he speaks German.
Oh, very cool.
He might be watching these videos. I wish he was here, but
Shout him out.
yeah.
Invite him.
I wish he is. He's on a mission. I gave him a mission because that's how we learn, right? We push each other forward. I
Yeah.
don't just give him everything. But
Well, yeah.
Shpale, if you're listening to this, I hope you are, because I sent you to the YouTube channel. You better you better be helping me because I'm helping you.
That's how it goes. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. I find that to be pretty true. Uh, it really is. We all the boats rise with the water, as they say. Speaking of,
So
for the past couple of days, I've had student bookings. I've had bookings with people that have been, kind of cashing out all of their, um, cashing out all of their remaining student lessons, and we've had some really excellent progress with that because normally a lesson is like an hour, but I would like to move that a little further out and make them a little bit like an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours minimum. I feel like that would be really, really cool because people would get more done. And it's kind of hard to really get in the flow of things after getting the projects from people, making sure they open, making sure everybody has technology and sound worked out and all that sort of stuff. And I know that that's a lot of stuff we can do ahead of time and we should do ahead of time, and I do everything I can to make that happen. But sometimes that it just works out the way that it does. Like we go to open a session and they don't have something, or they've updated it since they sent me the version they have sent. So for whatever reason, sometimes it's just hard to get in the flow when you only have an hour to make improvements on a song. So yeah. Anyways, with these long sessions that I've been having lately, I've been having a lot of breakthroughs with students. With we like for example, Today I had, I think, 5 or 6 lessons with one student. So it was just an all day tutorial basically, and like session where we were going back and forth, and we are essentially answering each other's questions, and like I'm helping them get the songs to where they need to be, and everything from composition to production to mix and master. We're kind of addressing all of those, and we're really able to get through a lot. So if anybody's watching this on the YouTube channel and you want to learn about the approach, about how to get your mixes and masters better, then send an email to support@theapproachinstitute.com, and we will happily, or message me personally at clint@theapproachinstitute.com, and we will help you figure out what the move is on how to get involved with that. Because um, seeing the progress of we made like 6 moves on one of these songs earlier on a student's track, 6 moves, and this track went from okay to slamming. I mean, just sounding so much better, and just I think it was like 6 things. We just tweaks a couple levels, maybe some EQ, a little compression, and then boom, all of a sudden the song is exploding. So I definitely want to encourage anybody listening right now to reach out to us and let us show you what your music can sound like, because you know we can help. I promise. There's a lot of really excellent lessons to be learned from long form lessons. That's for sure.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's great.
Earlier this week, you were telling me about the first couple steps because I think I'm about to enroll in some of your classes,
Okay, great.
and you said the first step is have a reference.
Yeah,
Start from that point
yeah.
of
And there's more
truth,
to it
you
than
know?
that too.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it than that for sure. But you're right.
But what if someone had no idea what they were measuring up against? Like they just like not I would say throw something up, but they worked hard at like trying not to sound like someone else, or like not to frame something around someone else's idea.
So you mean if you're using a song as like a compositional or a mix reference, and uh somebody like you so okay, so if that's the question, then I have to ask, why even use the reference in the first place?
Actually, the question was sorry,
Oh, sorry.
I might have misspoken.
Man, no, I might have misunderstood.
I
So
just got off of work.
no, you're fine. You're fine.
um, so I put a song together and I really don't know what to do with it. So
Mm.
I don't have a reference, and I don't know what it sounds like. And
Hmm.
people are always surprised by it, but I don't know what to measure it up against. So I feel like that's why I'm scared to like push that out because I
Yeah,
don't really want to be an artist. I want to help other people.
sure. Well, okay, so you saying you don't know what to compare your music against, really, right?
Correct.
Well, I think that's okay, and you don't have to have a song that is, you know, beat for beat, same tempo, same sound, same genre, honestly, because you can use it as kind of a relative framework, like where, okay, their low end to high end balance is X, their width is generally this wide. Does my song can you come close to that? Does their transient response hit like I want my song to hit? And if mine hits harder, is that okay? Do I want that? Do I need it to be a little softer? Like, what do I, like just asking yourself questions about why you're using the reference in the first place. And you can pick and choose what you use from the reference and what you take away from the reference. It's just a guideline essentially, but you can go as far as really getting nitty gritty about like individual frequency areas and kind of transient response and width and things like that to optimize your song using that as kind of a mix template of sorts. Um, but then you don't have to. So you can, for example, like Tony Maserati. Tony Maserati he says I think if I remember right from an interview he had a little while back, he said that he uses 2 different songs for references, and one for the high end and one for the low end. And he uses the client provided references, I believe, for like the mid range. If I can't remember where I heard this, it may not even be Tony Maserati, but I know for a fact I heard Tony Maserati say he uses one reference for the high end and one like for the hi hats or something, and one reference for something else. Um, but yeah, that's an idea. So you could essentially use one song just for one element. You're like, I really like the width of this song, but I really like the impact of this other song. or the I like how loud the X instrument is compared to the X instrument in my song. So you know what I mean? You can just kind of pick and choose. You can Frankenstein references,
Like
I
use
suppose.
my song. Or sorry, I'm thinking personally. So
Hmm.
use one of my the only song that I ever made that I really want to make an imprint with as a seed and to grow into others and then push beyond.
Yeah, you could absolutely do that. You could take your song, mix it against some other commercial reference. So, like for example, because that's something else. Even if it's not the same genre, even if it's not the same style, what you notice about a lot of different music out there is that they all have this same kind of a kind of uniformity, a standardization of sorts to them. And if your music doesn't have some essence of that, then there's some work to be done in framing and in balance and certain mix tricks that you can do. So, um, overall, if your mix doesn't have something that je ne sais quoi, as they say, that I don't know what that the reference does, you could use any reference or a lot of different references, even if it's just to get your ears calibrated to the level that you're playing. That's a huge tip. Like, just listening to some form of music in the same system, meaning like in the DAW, if you're, if you're just put some piece of music in there so that you have some semblance of levels to go off of. Like it doesn't even have to be like an active comparison of like bass to bass or highs to highs or whatever. It just has to you just have to know like if this is how loud a mastered song is, how loud is my mix down compared to that? Like or even if you turn down the mastered reference to match it, it's like does mine even is mine even close to the relative framing of that reference? So that's kind of you can use it as a template, like a sketching, like an outline, so to speak.
I am no longer buying Melodyne Studio. I'm buying your lessons because like
Oh,
what would I do with Melodyne? What would I do with it? I don't know. I feel
I
like
don't know. I mean,
Quinn
maybe.
Moody could definitely walk me through the process.
I mean, well, with Melodyne, you could absolutely. We might wind up using Melodyne in the lesson. So, but no, actually, it's worth it to have both actually. But yeah, if you get the lessons, then we can absolutely cover a whole lot of different territory, and that's what's really cool about these lessons of the lab time is that we can go into any facet of the music you want because if we're having problems in one area and we're trying a lot of things and we're shoehorning it trying to shoehorn the sound into place, it might be a fundamental difference or like a fundamental problem or issue with the sound. And this actually happened yesterday where um, we have a song. This student provided a song. The song itself is awesome. Like there's a lot of really good elements in the song, but with the kind of elements like the main focal point, like the main element that needed to have focus just wasn't delivering on the expectations set in the build of the song. So like you had this build up and then the main lead just didn't deliver on that. And so we tried several things and then eventually we just kind of realized, wait, well this sound itself is fundamentally flawed in a couple different ways. Let's just go back to square one on that one sound, redesign that sound, and it'll probably fit better with less shoehorning and kind of forcing it into, cramming things into the box, so to speak. So it really can come down to what sound it is, but also like we can cover a lot of different areas, and sometimes it's really worthwhile to know that sometimes there are underlying production issues that need to be addressed, and um, we can get to all of those in the lab time. So yeah, it's worthwhile. Mr. Event Horizons was saying that he is on his way. If we pull back to the one up here, I want to hop over into the chat and see if anybody is in the chat yet. I'm sure there will be eventually. Oh yeah, Mr. Event Horizon says he's driving home right now. We got
He's
people.
busy. He's putting in the work ever since I joined. Like he's been in the chat. He's been pushing us forward.
Totally.
Even though like he hasn't helped me specifically, he's been there to like be like a voice of reason within my like noisy life.
Mm-hmm. 100%. 100%.
Um, I just have a couple questions for you,
Sure.
just because I'm a fan of you. Um,
Much appreciated.
what got you started? Because like I'm thinking, I don't even know how old you are. I'm 30. I feel like I'm around your age, and like I, I got started with the Ableton Handbook, and
Well,
y'all
actually,
pushed
I
me
did
so
too.
much further than that, and like because like that was the cheat codes. Like at first, I would have like kind of like I would just lug this around, but I was like, why do I lug this around? Like I would just start reading it, you know?
That's actually a really good, interesting question. So we are about the same age, and yeah, I'm about to turn 30 this year, and so what got me started? I've been a musician my whole life, from the time I've been like 5 or 6, maybe. Um, my first experience with music was piano lessons, and then after that, which my mother made me take, and at the time I really hated it. I just didn't like the idea of sitting downstairs where our piano was, in a kind of dungeness basement, while it's nice and sunny outside, and I could go play instead. I didn't like that idea, but I wound up sitting in a basement and mixing music for the rest of my professional career. I mean, which is now, now that's all I do is sit in a dark space with and mix music. So what's funny is that I never expected to be a musician. I didn't expect to. I didn't know that it was possible. I really didn't like believe in myself very much at first, as far as making this like a career or anything, or kind of doing this professionally. But as I got older, I kind of going through high school. I was in marching band. I played piano. Went to marching band or concert band first, then marching band. Um, I had a lot of musician friends because of that. Because when you're in a band with like 80 other people, you meet a few people and you hang out and you grow together, and especially people that were in the band with me, you know, from 7th grade onward up through all the way through high school. So I've known a lot of those people for for years, and they were really close friends of mine. But then after that, tastes changed, and then I started learning production when a friend of mine showed me some hip hop beats that he made, and it's kind of like electronic music that he had made in Propellerhead's Reason, and Reason blew my mind. I didn't understand a thing about it. I had no idea what I was looking at. And even before that, I think I remember downloading FL Studio, like some crack of FL Studio, or maybe even a trial or something, and trying it, feeling like it was just overwhelming and way too complicated. And then eventually I was like, whatever. And then my friend showed me Reason, and I was like, well, this seems kind of cool and accessible, because I had a friend here to show me how to kind of get involved. And from there, we started making electronic music, and that was like 2009, 2010, maybe. And um, eventually, going to school for it, after I finally settled on a major in college, I changed my mind so many times because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no direction of sorts. I really didn't know that it was possible to be a professional mix engineer or educator like this. So uh, eventually, I found a way to make it work in my favor and got a degree. My parents said I had to go to school and I had to get a degree, and I eventually, I got a degree in music production, and I'm really glad that I did because that's where I met all my roommates and my friends, and what led me to where I am now. And so that's kind of what got me started, was ultimately my mom forcing me into piano lessons that I hated, but now am really grateful for.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Amazing. I feel that. You were kind of more of a classical approach
Hmm.
to learning than I did. I started with trumpet band, and then bass guitar jazz band in high school, which I should not have passed. Thank you for the passing grade. Richland High School. Never showed up to the. I don't know. I felt weird. I felt awkward. I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. Like I didn't know how to read bass clef. I was all in treble clef. If
Same.
y'all know how to read music, and I was just like shocked by that change. I was like, "There's a different world." Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm so sorry for not showing up, but that's what like I first felt me separating myself from the stage, if that makes sense. And then
Sure.
I really like solidified my thoughts and my process, and I wanted like the reason why I joined the approach is like because I wanted to help push other people up, and I just wanted
Mm.
to take a back seat, like not in any like derogatory term, but like I just can't solidify myself to one genre of music. There's very few that I feel like that are great artists that push boundaries,
Yeah.
and this place helps me hear the pushed boundaries, if that makes any sense.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, and that's what's amazing to me about the electronic music community is that a lot of innovation that it makes its way up to pop music actually comes from the underground, and that's kind of always been the case. Like the underground, somebody in the underground, be it like blues or R&B or nowadays like hip hop or electronic music or whatever. Somebody that's not popular does something different because that's what they're it's original, and then the mainstream likes it, and then eventually it becomes mainstream to do that thing, and they're then deified as the originator of that thing. And I really love electronic music because for that exact reason, and I'm happy that the approach can kind of help you see things in a new light because at the moment, one of my favorite things about electronic music specifically is just, or it actually doesn't even have to be electronic music. It's just the state of music as it currently is seems to be so advanced that people are doing things that have not been heard. Like for example, when it comes to music evolution, things have moved pretty slow up until about, the modern, call it the electroacoustic era that the digital era especially. Things just seem to be moving faster and faster in terms of innovation. And I really like the fact that so many different sounds are being used and different types of compositions are being made, even though sometimes, like, granted, we're not making symphonies, we're not doing like full hour long things most often, but at the same time, musically and sonically, we're doing a lot of experimental stuff these days and using techniques and technologies that obviously didn't exist. So we're able to take advantage of a whole lot of different tricks to create excitement in the listener. So I really like that where we are right now because we can hear a lot of different sounds that have never been made before and a lot of different types of music that have never been made before. And I always found that really interesting. Hey, who just joined? Is that who I think that is? Myper. What's up, Myper?
We
Oh,
got my
we got Myper in the house.
push to talk, sir.
Oh yeah, push to talk. It's okay. Probably getting the microphone set up.
Ooh, while we're waiting,
Yeah.
I had another question.
Okay.
I feel someone always gives you that leg up, that push upwards, even though you didn't know it.
Mm,
That was my jazz band teacher, even though I did not like being on stage. I feel like he read that from me
sure.
because I don't like being the center of attention anywhere.
Sure.
I feel like I'm coming into my own. But
Good.
who is it that gave you your first up,
Oh
like
gosh, it
either
has to be.
professionally or just personally?
Oh, it has to be Seth Drake for sure. I mean, that's the most notable one right now. I mean, that's the start, the founder of the approach. Like we gotta give credit where credit is due. Seth has helped me so much personally, uh, and it all started just on the internet and like hanging out on Facebook groups and things like that. And that's where we got acquainted. And it's pretty crazy. Seth has been really helpful to me and has taught me so much about so many different things. And it's weird because, in certain circles, I found myself teaching a lot of other people a lot of different things. And then when I started interacting with Seth a lot more and became friends with him and eventually colleagues, etc., he blindsided me like stepping out on the street and getting hit by a truck with a bunch of new experiences and a bunch of new methodologies for doing things in ways that I had never previously considered. So that has been a very big blessing to me, and I want to thank him profusely for A, the opportunity, B, the time, C, the patience. And I mean, especially the patience. Like he's been really patient with me in a lot of different ways. Whenever my computer fails, or I mess something up because of inexperience, like he's been really really helpful. and instrumental, I would say, in where I currently am in terms of not only physical, just like mixing ability, but also, um, you know, uh, professionally. So, massive shout out to Seth Drake because that has been a blessing for sure. Um, oh, hey, see people
Figured out my
popping.
push to talk.
Oh,
I
you got
had,
pushed to talk.
My bear.
yeah, I had to look
Bunkis
up my
Volkoma.
command.
Uh-oh.
Bunkis, talk again. I think you're choppy.
Oh
Super
yeah,
chop.
little choppy.
Try just restarting Discord or closing an application, or
Yeah, it's one of
maybe
the. It's one of
what is
those.
that? Ethernet cording in to your internet.
Yeah, definitely could be one of those.
Yeah,
Have we
I had
got?
to look up my push to talk because so yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
I
a
looked it
minute.
up. So I'm good now. So yeah, I can talk now. Yeah.
Yes. What's up,
Yeah.
Myper?
I'm
What
doing
about
pretty
Wonkus?
solid.
One
Yeah.
kiss. We got evil kittens.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hey, yes.
Oh, we got the whole gang. I missed you guys.
Miss y'all. So this is super weird. Whenever I use the Discord app, it's choppy as fuck. But when I use it in the browser, it's cool, I guess. So weird.
Oh, that's interesting. It could be a sample rate mismatch. It could be a sample rate thing. What kind of microphone are you using?
I got my SM7B just going through my interface.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would say it's probably usually what happens, at least this is my experience, is sometimes I have to just change sample rate higher and then drop it back down lower in order for that to kind of reset things. Um, that might be something to try, but without knowing your system, it's kind of difficult to say. Um, yeah, very, very cool. Myper,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it has been a long time.
Yeah, it has. I've been really busy. I got home from work today at like it's 9:40 now, about an hour and a half ago.
Oh wow, wow,
Yeah. So it was like a 13-hour workday for me, but
that's a long day.
You mix and master, or I don't know what you do. That's why I'm asking. I'm sorry.
oh yeah. Yeah, sorry man. Like I remember you asking that question and no, I'm definitely blue collar right now. It's all manual labor.
Nothing wrong with that.
Props.
Yeah. It's heavy on the bod for sure. Like for sure.
Understandable. I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same.
But I mean, honestly, it's kind of
Mhm.
helped me just be able to maintain a lot of structure. I'm actually looking forward to the relatively near future, like as in like around next year-ish,
Yeah.
because what is it? I work with my parents and they do home improvement and they're gonna transition me to just like, I do paperwork and manage employees and teach and like actually
Oh
like
wow.
knock out houses too. But eventually like I'm getting my personal trainer certification and they're gonna maintain my salary while still doing paperwork for them next year, and then that'll be able to free up like basically all my time because paperwork takes me like a couple hours out of like a week,
Yeah.
like on a per week basis. So
Oh
like
wow. So
next
you'll
year,
be having a job while you're able to do other things.
exactly. I'm gonna have like income coming in, and like I live with them right now, so I'll also be like moving out, and that'll be like gigantic because like I'm gonna have like a dedicated studio instead of it being my bedroom,
Yeah.
and it'll be pretty sick because like I'm gonna have like I said, the income will come in while I'll be able to like work on this music, and eventually I'm trying to transition fully from like um having what like working with them. So that's what my personal trainer certification is going to be for. So
Yeah.
so I can like ties taking care of my own body and helping others take care of their bodies. And yeah, so that's that all to like be able to feel because like once I'm out and I have like that huge window where I'm stabilizing from my new living situation, it's just gonna be like complete just like level 99 grind on the music stuff. Like it will be retarded amounts of grind. Like
Good.
being so time and physically restricted with the way I am now,
Sure.
like I work like 12 to 15-hour days, sometimes 6 to 7 days a week and like trying to like go through the approach material and go through my personal trainer material and the dojo material. And I'm also on like 2 different mindset courses. Like I have like 7 different coaching programs that I'm in, along with taking care of my job, and then like
Wow.
also trying to have
Props.
yeah, like it's a
It's a
lot,
lot.
man. Yeah, and I'm trying to because like if I can master time management with this level of work that I need to handle before I have that big ass window,
Hmm.
then by the time I get to that window, I'll literally be able to get years worth of work done in like a week, and I'll have like months of time. You
Wow.
know what I mean? So
Fantastic.
yeah,
Time dilation.
yeah, I am like looking like trying to that, but it's all contingent on what me making sure that I master the grind right now.
Yeah.
Like so I'm currently trying to like grind through everything right now. Like I've caught up to the approach all the way up to the point where I'm finally just at mastering, but it's also just been to that point for a while now because I used to just watch the approach videos while I did my exercises.
Mm.
But because the mastering course, I remember when it first started, you're doing like mastering exercises. You're trying to pick out, like you're actually like like doing exercises and
Right.
stuff doing during like the first part of the mastering series, and I
Sure.
can't do that while I'm exercising. So
Of
that's what's
course.
caused a lot of hesitation or like, yeah, that's what's kind of stunted my progress through going through the current through the approach videos now. So I'm a little stunted there.
No worries, actually, because we have fundamentals videos as well that I've posted that are up now. So that are covering everything from sound fundamentals, digital audio fundamentals, time-based effects, things like that. So those would be pretty good ones to check out, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, cool. Because I saw those and like it confused me as to like what they really were, but then like me kind of like coming in and out of the approach, or just like through the weeks and stuff, I've kind of gotten the picture of what that fundamental section is. So
Right.
yeah, I am going to be going through that because I went through the first 2 videos,
Yeah.
and because everything up to that point where I stopped at imaging, which was
Uh-huh.
like the last series before the mastering started.
Right.
I got really confused because when I started the fundamentals, it like looked like it didn't look like it's what was immediately after from where I started or from
Right.
where I left off. So I was
Right.
like, oh, okay. So when I read the chat and trying to catch up on everything, it's like, oh, I get it. It's like a completely separate part where it's just like trying
Sure.
to refoundationalize everything.
Sure.
So yeah. I'm gonna be definitely going through that. But yeah, man, it's been like super busy. I am trying to like still focus on the output. It's been a little up and down as far as stability, in the big brain and in the mental
Right.
health aspect. But like I think I'm handling it pretty well despite the
Well,
circumstances.
I should say so. I mean, honestly, working 12-hour days is taxing on anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Excuse me for 1 second, everybody. You keep going. You're good. I'm just
I
I just have to step away from the mic for 5 seconds.
what I love about this community is that y'all hold me accountable. It's like, have you hit that section yet? Have you touched
Yeah.
about this? Have you thought about this plus this?
Well, yeah,
What
that's
about
kind of
minus this plus that?
and that's really important. Like accountability is super important, and because it kind of forces you to check yourself essentially with what you've been through and kind of keep up and whatnot. And it's okay if you I mean, obviously, Myper, you're busy as hell. Like that's fine. That's totally fine and totally expected. Not everybody's going to be able to like follow along, and that's why we have the archive. So if I think now it's up to like probably 200 hours of videos.
Yeah, it's intense. I'm making my way through it. I'm on the second to last imaging. I started like
Yeah.
4 months ago, and it's like it's all those hours plus like it's like foundational shaking shit
Right.
a lot of the time. Like there's some
Yeah.
like some big mind exploding moments. So
For
it's
Have you
sure.
reached seating?
oh yeah, I'm on seating right now.
Bro,
That shit is fucking
bro.
that it made me want to change to Ableton because in order to facilitate that in Logic, it's just a lot of bus routing that is just
Yeah.
like gross.
Yeah, and that's another thing too is that there are plugins. If you need help figuring out how to do some of the tricks with Logic, let me know and I can totally help with that. There are several plugins that I can recommend that will help with that for sure. But yeah, it really is pretty like you said, earth shaking when it comes to the ideas that are presented and kind of how they are able to kind of help everything. I keep hearing. Let me see if is it just me or does everybody keep hearing Discord as well? Let me get Discord notifications off. I think that's something I'm still hearing here. Hang on one second. Yep, still hearing them.
Yeah,
It might have been me.
Oh, is that you?
I like to communicate behind the scenes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's just I'm such a fan. I have to say something without saying something.
But yeah, that seating, when I finally got to that point, I've been trying to figure out.
And
how
what
to
are y'all
make-
saying? I'm sorry. I think I'm missing it because I'm bad with sibilances. You're saying like seeding, like
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
seeding.
I plant a
Like-
seed and I grow a tree.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
planting a seed. So like what's happening in the seeding concept as far as in reference to what we're talking about, it's about how like you make a very, very small discrepancy on like say like a mono signal to create stereo signal, and then you split you do parallel processing to where you like solo the mids and then solo the sides. So it's just a splitter rack where you split the mid from of the mono content from the stereo content after you've like created that slight discrepancy in the stereo image or on the signal to make stereo to make a like stereo material, and then you go to the stereo chain like the side chain side chain, but no, like the stereo chain.
2 chains.
And then you just process that stereo chain. You can gain it, you can saturate it, all just to be able to increase the amount of stereo image or like the stereo signal, and just make it, just create more stereo material. And because you're working with only stereo material, once you hit mono, like it'll be completely mono compatible because all of these changes that you're making, where you're saturating it, coloring it, doing whatever you want to it, compression, whatever, just to get more stereo signal out of that little discrepancy that you made before that rack, because you're only processing that stereo chain right there. When you put it into mono, everything you did is mono compatible.
Exactly.
So that shit blew my fucking mind because I've been trying to figure out how to make stereo sub bass ever since Dylan, like 150 weekly downloads ago, was doing like a freaking
You talking about ill gates?
yeah. He was making, he was showing the frequency, he was doing an analysis on tracks to be able to show you, he's like, hey, like, these are kind of like the things that, the big boys are doing. So you need to make sure that, that you're doing the same thing. I think it was the Three Extremes where it was just like, look at how detailed the highs are, look at what's happening in the lows, look at what's happening in the very edges. And one of the main points that he made is like, yeah, look at the, stereo image, and he looked at a stereoscope where you see the stereo image where you just illustrate the stereo image, and he's like, yeah, look how the mono signal is in the sub bass, it's almost always like completely mono. And then he put on a Tipper track, and Tipper's track was not stereo, it was not a mono sub bass at all. It was very, very much a stereo material inside of the sub. And it's fucking Tipper, so it bangs, it hits, you know what I'm
definitely.
saying?
Well,
Yeah,
actually, Myper, if you need a way to get stereo sub bass, you can. So obviously, Pro Mode has a couple of things, or not even Pro Mode, just in the archive. You got Seth's engineering assets. There's some things in there for that. But also, if you have Pro Mode from I think January, or maybe it dropped in February, I have my it was the C Imager, the Easy Imager. It's all Ableton stock plugins that are able to recreate a perfect recreation of Isotope Ozone 9 Imager's Mode 1 algorithm. And it's, yeah. So check that out if you're in Pro Mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's working out so much,
Since
he's
day one,
sleeping
man.
on it.
Yeah, so check out Pro Mode video from February, I believe. It was the Mega Pack that dropped. In that, there is a rack. There's several different awesome things in there, but one of them that I was very, very proud of to make was I cracked the code for how Isotope how they make their mode 1 widening algorithm, because if you look at it and if you study it, it's perfectly monocompatible, but it's also really good width. It's a very strong width plugin. And I've found a way to recreate that flawlessly with Ableton stock plugins, and even offered a couple different modes as well. So if you need stereo subs, I even teach in that video, in the walkthrough video, how to calculate and how to tune it for your key that you're in. So so that can be a thing for you.
Nice, nice. Hell yeah, man. Because so far, the only thing I've like executed or exercised with stereo sub is just the trick that I saw in the imaging series of the archive, where you just plant the seed.
Yep.
And the main one I do, because all the other methods of creating stereo are not phase coherent, like
Right.
time differential, phase differential, or amplitude.
Right.
Like that's I just use harmonics, where the saturator is like ever so slightly different on the left and right. And that was the seed that I used to make stereo sub bass, since that was the one that I determined was the most effective from watching the imaging series.
Nice, nice. That's a good one. That is a really good one. There's nothing wrong with that. There's so many different little tricks that you can do, all of which lead to slightly different results, of course, but they're still so good. Highly recommended to experiment with a lot more of them. So very,
Yeah,
very
I
cool.
really like the whole seed idea too, because me, like a bunch of other people, probably when I first started, I would just like take a sound and duplicate it and pan it left and right and be like stereo, even though it's just a volume increase. And then everyone's like, no, don't do that. That doesn't create any difference. But like with the seeded method, it's kind of going back to that original idea. And it's like, well, if you create like a slight differential between those two duplicated tracks, or like left and right split, or however you want to go about it, then you can in fact create some like insane stereo width, which I think was
Absolutely.
kind of dope, that it like kind of goes back to like that original big brain move that like I made in like my first couple years of engineering, so.
Exactly. And really, that's what's cool, is that that's one of the things that I think I'm the most excited about with regard to some of the things that the approach has kind of taught me, was that you can totally have mono-compatible stereo, first of all. And Seth and I had talked about this for months and possibly years before before the approach even really existed. We talked about mono-compatible stereo and how to achieve that. And one of the ways that I thought was really interesting, and it's something that I try to take advantage of. I actually have a preset. Let me see if I can find it really quickly, and I'll give it away for you. I have a preset for the. Actually, you know what? I'll probably make it part of Pro Mode. So if anybody's not subscribed to Pro Mode, get subscribed to Pro Mode and get this preset. It's a perfect. It's for Vital, the synthesizer Vital. It makes perfect mono-compatible stereo. And let me see here. I'll probably have to log in really quickly. I'll have to log into Vital, and then I'll pull up the screen. So if anybody's not watching, if you want to check out the HD video, we're on YouTube right now. So get into the Chat Town chat channel. There should be a link there, and you can probably hop in. But you can see what I'm doing. So here in just a second, and I'll pull up after I have to log into Vital, which is weird to me. It's weird that you have to log into a synthesizer. Here, just work offline. There we go. Oh, who's popping in? Saw somebody pop up.
Wonkus.
Wonkus, you're back. Oh, no, this is... Oh, Evil Kittens. No, Evil Kittens.
The old switcheroo.
Yeah. Yeah, so there is a mono-compatible way to... There is a way to get perfect mono-compatible... Actually, I can't pull it up right now. It's not behaving. That's okay. There is a way to get perfect mono-compatible stereo out of Vital, and it be very well synced with regard to Like it's specific to the third harmonic. That's something that's really cool. I think there was a post in a Discord channel that I'm a part of, which I will tell you all about some other time, that was talking about it, and somebody was asking how it's possible, and I was like, I think I can do this with Vital. And yeah, so there is a way in which you can program Vital to have the third harmonic only be perfectly monocompatible stereo, which is very cool. And one of my favorite tricks that I've learned recently, which was from analyzing an Ariana Grande mix, if you watch the... Okay, so you owe it to yourself to grab Ariana Grande's song, No Tears Left to Cry, throw that thing in Ableton or any other DAW, grab a bunch of meters that allow you to see mid, side, and stereo information as well. Grab a span, and then grab a vector scope of some kind, and take a look at what is going on with the snare, because the snare in that song has in the sideband an octave lower. This, like, the fundamental of the snare is in the sideband an octave lower, but not in the midband. Just blew my mind. Like, so whoever mixed that, Serben Gania, the goat of mixing, took the snare, pitched it, or duplicated it, made it stereo somehow, and pitched that down an octave, and that's what you hear in the sideband.
Nutty. That's awesome.
That blew my mind. That was a really, really, really cool trick.
I'm impressed that such a, like an intricate thing was done to such a, like, to a pop track like that.
100%. The things like that, honestly, pop music and country music, and these are the two things that a lot of people love or hate. And country music in particular has some of the best mixing that you will find anywhere. Even modern bro country, that kind of just tasteless
stadium country music.
The stadium country music that is genuinely garbage as far as taste is concerned, and lack of pandering, but that's just my opinion. But I live in Nashville, so I can say that. So genuinely, they are fantastic at mixing and at maintaining clarity across every possible instrument. I mean, they are masters at that. Take a listen to any 90s country song and just think of, and just, okay, for example, try to record drums. If you've never recorded drums, if you ever get the opportunity, take that opportunity, because you will find very quickly how difficult that can be and how much of a headache and time-consuming mix process that can be. Acoustic drums and live instrumentation in general is genuinely difficult sometimes, because you are dealing with so many different facets of sound. All of them have to kind of align at once. You have to have a good microphone, a good preamp, a good space to record in, with good instrumentation, with a good player. And if you don't have all of those happening at once, it's going to be really difficult to get that mix dialed perfectly. But a lot of those country records, I tell you, for all of the cheesiness and the, it's not my style personally for music. I would never put it on to like actually just for genuine listening. But some 90s country I would, but like
You ain't going bop Old Town Road, bro?
I'm not going to bop Old Town Road, but I will listen to the mix on that, and I will note how good some parts of pop music pop music in general is sometimes fantastic mixes, and sometimes they're garbage mixes, and that's what kind of confuses me. Like, sometimes like techniques that are from bad mixes become popular. Like Triple X Temptation has a song, I don't even know, I can't even remember the name of the song. Incanti, Ben Incanti Cantil of Zebler and Canty Experience has a YouTube channel, and you should check it out if you haven't done so. Has a
That
YouTube.
dude is a genius.
He is an absolute genius, and really good friend of mine. Like, I love that guy. Shout outs Ben. Yeah, Ben is great, and like, Ben has a tutorial where he recreates a technique that was created from an error in mixing on a Triple X Temptation song. And it was where there was intermodulation on the vocal caused by the sub bass going and the vocal going through really hard distortion or compression at the same time. So, vocal's totally clear. As soon as the sub comes in and pounds, intermod happens. Vocal goes all kinds of distorted. And he liked that sound, so he figured out a way in Ableton to do sidechain distortion to a bass, so that another instrument, like a vocal, when the sub hits, the distortion cranks up and it distorts the vocal, but only when the sub hits. It's a really, really cool trick. So, but what's great about that and why I bring it up is because sometimes in pop music, if people have clout, they can get away with really experimental stuff and it becomes mainstream. And we were actually just talking about this before a lot of people hopped on, about how the underground always seems to influence the mainstream. There's always the early adopters and the innovators, and then they influence the bulk majority. And that's some fascinating stuff. We can go. I mean, I can talk forever on it, but essentially, yeah, pop music like Ariana Grande, some of the best mixing you're ever gonna hear. Like 24 Karat Magic, Ariana Grande. Actually, all of it in the Discord. So, anybody watching on YouTube that's not in the Discord, get on our Discord. There will be a link in the description of this video. I think there already is. Go there. Join us in the Discord. There is a lot of really cool stuff. We have a reference track repository channel, and in that channel, I've posted a few different types of mixes. Some of them mixed by Serban Gania, easily the GOAT of mixing right now. Easily the most in-demand mix engineer anywhere in the world. And his mixes are so pristine. It's just, what do you even do? It's just kind of like, wow, that happened.
So is it also possible that the extremely like cookie cutter formulaic nature of pop and pop country is also what leads to innovations in
100%.
Because like that's the only thing you can really do to distinguish yourself, because everyone's using the same kind of chord progressions, the same whatever's in vogue for the percussive elements or whatever it is that year. So it seems like that's like the one thing you can like fuck with and be creative about without tipping the formula over.
That's a good point. And I feel like a lot of it comes back to everybody just wants to have the best sounding record at the end of the day. It doesn't matter the genre or the style or whatever. Everybody ultimately just wants the best sounding music they can get. And I think that's why so many people love Noisia, because if their mixes were garbage, I highly doubt that they would be where they are. I mean, they're great composers, their music's cool, but if their mixes and their sound design wasn't so on point, I don't think that they would be where they are. I really don't. And yeah, I think that because, like you say, because people have they have the time, they have the budget, and they have the motivation to go all out on every possible aspect of the music to be the best that it can be, because there's a large financial incentive, right? Like if you have the best sounding record, you're going to get more plays, more sales, more ticket sales, whatever, you're going to get more money. So high, strong incentive. And country music, by the way, for anybody who's not aware, is by far the best grossing genre of music there is, period. Unquestionable.
That's why people's now a country music stuff.
Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks that pop music sells a lot, and it kind of does, but country music sells more. Country music is a ridiculously profitable industry. And I mean, we're talking like, that's why it kind of makes me laugh when people are thinking, and this is just it makes me laugh now, because now I live with somebody who my roommate Chris Tyler is actually a producer, is Ives. He is an agent, or he's becoming an agent for Endeavor, or well, yeah, he works for Endeavor, which is William Morris agency, for anybody who doesn't know. And he has previously been in charge of booking or helping book a majority of the country acts in all of Texas, which is a huge market. That is a massive, massive, massive market for music, especially country music. And he has given me a lot of insight about the kind of profit margins that are possible with country as opposed to other genres. And after talking with him a lot about this, it makes me kind of laugh when we think that a large scale DJ makes a lot of money. Yeah, they do. Like Skrillex, yeah, he makes a lot of money, or he has a lot of money. And like, yeah, the 5 or 10 biggest names of DJs, yeah, they make some money. But all the money they make is still almost pales in comparison to the kind of money that country acts make. It's ridiculous. Like, the profit margins on the country genre and the pop genre are so much larger than even the largest of the electronic music scene. It is crazy. Like, it is ridiculous. So So yeah, just like interesting perspective, you know, on like like you said. Anyways, the motivation is to be the best and to have the most clear mixes, and you know, pop music can help push that forward because they have the best technology, they have the money to mix it in the best rooms with the best technology to get the best people to do it, and those best people that are doing it have done it for 40 plus years already, so they have experience in a lot of different areas, and yeah, and you know, to bring it back full circle, I guess, is just that to I think it was Onkus that said it, or maybe Rob, I'm not sure who said it, but it was it's basically that, like, yeah, it's honestly a lot of innovation comes from the pop and country genres, but just in terms of mixing alone. Like Joey Moy, go ahead. Somebody was saying something, I thought.
Continue.
Okay.
Sorry, I won't interrupt.
No, you're fine. Please do. I mean, I don't want to be the only one talking, but Joey Moy is the producer that broke Nickelback. Like, he created the sound of Nickelback, which, for all of, you know, all the hate they get, whatever. I mean, it's people that can like them or they hate them. I don't really care. But they have like well mixed music, and I mean, they've won multiple Grammys for a reason, you know. And Joey Moy is the mix engineer and I believe the recording engineer as well, and possibly even a songwriter on some of them, and possibly even the mastering engineer on one of them. I don't know, but I know that he mixed and engineered a lot of that. And I actually interviewed with him to be his assistant a couple of years ago. And when I was getting to meet him and hang out with him and ask him questions and whatnot, he now doesn't do rock and roll anymore. He does, or pop music at all. He does country, because the profits were so high and the innovation was there. Like, he said that he got bored doing rock music because he can make way more money way easier in country music, because it's like you said, you know, 4 chords, you know, that's this very standard songwriting, but then at the same time he's already got the skills in mixing, so he can be one of those people that makes a band just explode, you know. Their dynamic control in country music is very good most of the time.
Do you think that it's going to continue that way now that the newer generations, whatever letter they're at now,
I don't
are
know.
coming of age? I feel like in the future, it's not even going to be a human being. It's just going to be a computer. It's going to like AI what we want and like use holograms. You know, it'll be
Yeah.
just like computer holograms.
You know, I don't know, and that's a really interesting thing too, because like for example, the other day on Tuesday when I was talking with Zach Jablo, he brought up 100 gex, and I think Myper, you were talking with him as well about it, and 100 gex is a good example of kind of like what's possible and what's possible to get popular for doing. It's very weird music, but it's still kind of good engineered. It's like well engineered. It's, you know, not horrible at all.
No rules.
And yeah, it's like I question things like this often, actually, about what's going to happen when a lot of the current population stops doing what they're doing or passes away, because, like, for example, just the sheer experience of older engineers, they're very unique. Like, so for example, think about this: Al Schmidt has been at the forefront of music for 50 years. Like, he was actively recording, I think, for like 50 something plus years. That's a lifetime. And he witnessed innovation all the way from the 50s until now. Actually, I think he was probably recording for more than 60 years. So, if somebody wants to look that up, go for it. That'd be awesome. But Al Schmidt, like, when people like him die, or the top mixing engineers in the world, whenever they leave or they quit or they die or whatever, you know, I know that there are going to be other people to replace them, but I often wonder what the experience is of those new people, because so many
Al
people.
Schmidt died in April this year.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Big sad for sure, because that was
Rest in peace.
for sure. That was probably the single greatest living audio engineer.
20
ever.
fucking Grammys. Holy fuck, dude.
20 Grammys. Yeah.
I'm kind of the like pseudo science new agey Jungian type camp, though. I think there's like this. I legitimately think there's like a collective unconscious repository.
I would
And,
like to think
like,
that, yeah.
because like sometimes you'll be like thinking of like crazy ideas. You're like, oh, if only I had the skill and resources to do X, Y, Z. And then like the next week you see some big artist or like someone who can actually like pull it off, and you're like, whoa, I was just thinking about that.
That happens to me every day, and I hate it. I hate it so much because it's so.
But like, are we all part of a giant computer? Like is it a giant distributed computer network where all of our consciousnesses are processing this at the same time. So you might not be the person like at the front of it to get credit for it, but are we all kind of imagining and dreaming up a reality together?
You know what? That's a good question. And actually, your statement here reminds me of something I heard about a long time ago that I have not looked into as much as I wanted to. So if anybody's interested, feel free to research it and let me know what you find. It's called, excuse me, the 100th monkey experiment, where they, I believe, if I remember right, I have a vague recollection of it, where something like if one monkey learns a skill, let's say it's, I don't know, using a stick to get food out of a hole or something. I don't know, something like that. Like one primate learns a skill, and then another one, it shows another one, and then like basically their little collective learns this skill. After about the 100th one or so learns it, other monkeys and other primates on the opposite side of the globe at the same time will begin picking up that skill without having been shown it. So it has to talking about like collective unconscious and things like that, and like collective evolution. So if anybody wants to look that up and see if that's even remotely close to what the study was talking about, then that would be really interesting to learn about. But that's I do like to think that we are some kind of collective unconscious. I mean, at the very least, we have a collective unconscious that's undeniable, because we all are operating so often in unconscious processes. Like breath is something that nobody has to think about. Blinking, we often don't think about. I mentioned it, so now you're probably thinking about how you're blinking. But really, most often we're not thinking about how we're breathing. We're not thinking about a lot of the things that make our bodies function. And we're not thinking about like our psychological triggers or like all that's why it's called subconscious, right? Like it's below the level of perception. And if you combine all of the actions and circumstances and situations that have not only influenced those subconscious processes, but also been born of those subconscious processes, I mean, we literally have a massive collective hive mind of knowledge and of action that we aren't even really aware of. And that is really fascinating, I think.
Yeah, like I think how what is it? There's like scientific proof that observation affects like it influences results, right? Just
Yeah.
observing.
Yeah, this started with and I always fuck it. I'm not gonna. Oh man, this is typing at the same time. I'm not gonna try to explain it, but there's this thing called the double slit experiment.
Sure, I can
Yeah,
explain it. Yeah. The double slit experiment proved
like visuals and then actually witnessing it.
it's not as cut and dry as like you observe something and then you change it, but it has to do with Schrodinger's cat talks about this, but it has to do with quantum nature of reality, where photon, like the double slit experiment, to explain that for people, is basically like where it was an experiment done to prove whether or not electrons or photons, which are essentially electrons, act as particles or waves, because that was kind of the argument. Relativity states that everything is particles, and then quantum physics and quantum mechanics says everything is wave-like behavior. So the double slit experiment was created to settle that once and for all. But then what they found was, depending on where you measure it, it's both, and that's really bizarre. And so what the experiment essentially is, and I'm going to butcher this probably, but essentially what it is you have a barrier of some kind, so like a piece of cardboard or a piece of some substance that light cannot get through, and you put two small slits into it, and you shine a light into one of those slits, and like a laser beam, for example, which is a concentrated packet of photons. So the idea is, if it's a particle, which people presumed it would be, then if you shine the light through only one of those slits, then you would get a solid red dot on the other side. But that's not what we observed. It actually was an interference pattern that we observed, and looked like a series of bright and dark dashes, which shows an interference pattern. So that shows that the photons are acting like waves. But then also, if you measure it, depending on where you measure it, it was particles. And that gets into quantum physics and quantum mechanics, but it has to do with what's called the collapse of the wave function. So basically, the way that all this kind of ties in together is that if you if you 100% accurately know the position of a particle in space and time, then you have collapsed its wave function, and it has to do with how there's tons of videos I've seen on this, and I'm butchering the explanation now, but it has to do with like if you can either know the probability that something will be somewhere, or you can know its exact position. But if you know its exact position, you cannot know its probability. If you know its probability, if the probability is 100%, basically, you cannot know its position, or vice versa. It's something like that. It's like you can know one or the other, but not both simultaneously. And that has to do with the quantum state of all things. And if there's a book I believe called The Field, and I don't remember if it was science or pseudo science fiction, or if it was I don't remember, but I remember hearing about a book called The Field my friend was reading, talking about that, about how the brain essentially is like an antenna of consciousness of sorts, and that there's the quantum field at which we all kind of come from, the oneness that we all share.
Yeah, I'm so stoked that contemporary science is catching up to metaphysical spirituality.
Me too.
Well, it is kind of, but there's also like there's also mad pushback from the educational institutes.
Oh yeah, always will be.
Get that one, but and certainly from industry, because there's certain things like, because if you push the science far enough, we're going to have things like perpetual energy machines, and obviously that's not good for the bottom line. So we're going to suppress that shit. But in science, dude. So my dad's was a physics professor for over 50 years, which is fucking crazy. I don't think I could deal with kids that long. But he said back in his day, like even talking about some of the crazier, wilder quantum theories would like get you banned from tenure. Like you just didn't talk about that shit.
Yeah, totally. And that's because what's weird is, and there's actually a lot of talk about this right now, actually, obviously we're getting away from like mixing and stuff, but that's totally fine. Basically, there was a lot of talk about this recently with, I think it's, what's their name? I'm not going to go into it, but I was going to say, basically, there's a lot of talk about that right now, about why science is becoming like a religion, which is really unfortunate, I should say. For lack of, I don't want to say anything meaner, but it is unfortunate because people are no longer able to question as freely as they should be able to in every different way. And the reason being that science is influenced by politics and finance, because you have to have finance in order to fund the research.
Oh, and now we're taking those hard lines.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check out. Can I just go back to the art, please?
Yeah, the art.
But
yeah,
there was an art to science,
Well, I miss the days whenever I miss the days that whenever people were more often polymaths. They were well-rounded in several different fields. Like everybody from the 18th century seems like everybody from the 18th century was skilled in art science. I mean, everybody that was of financial prominence,
like your Da Vinci's and all that. Like he wasn't like the only Da Vinci in his time. In the Renaissance, there was a lot of Da Vinci's.
Yeah, and I wish that more people would study more things, and I wish society was set up in a way for us to study more things. And if anybody watching this on YouTube later is wanting to study how to mix and master music, check out The Approach at theapproachinstitute.com. So, a little plug there, shameless plug.
They were even dropping approach knowledge in Dojo yesterday too.
Oh, no kidding! Really?
Talking about sharing the load with
really
limiter.
Distributing the. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and stereo unlinking. There was so much approachisms going on.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and who was specifically talking about that?
It was Dylan. He was talking about mashups, and he did credit too. He gave Seth credit. So
hell yeah, that's awesome.
Nice. Was his method of mashing like a vocal on top of a master track was he using multiband sidechaining or because I didn't watch it before he limited?
I was kind of, because I was multitasking, so I was kind of coming in and out. I mean, I think the gist of it was basically, I mean, what's taught in the approach. Number one, when using limiters, share the load, always split the load. share the load, share the load, share the load. So he was like, all right, we're gonna do 3, and he didn't do it in parallel. He did it in series, but he used 3 limiters in series, and then the other thing was using stereo on link, so that you can have different signals for left and right, and not have them both kind of like squished to the center.
Sure.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
stereo image.
I
Yeah.
just started.
No,
There was other stuff. There was other stuff on his like preferences for settings, especially within Pro L2, which he decided was I guess the group collectively decided was the winner. Because he also talked about, apparently Seth also used to use PSP Xenon.
Yes,
which I
still
thought that's-
does. Still does.
Do you know why? Because I'm really curious when he uses one and when he uses the other, and why.
More often than okay, so he uses Xenon whenever he needs really transparent limiting, and I mean very transparent. Even Pro L has a very unique sound to it, and Xenon is probably the most transparent limiter that I know of, and that's definitely one of the situations. And I don't want to speak too far for him, but I do know that that's one of the things he reaches for when he needs really, really transparent limiting.
Xenon's Bobcats' favorite, I'm pretty sure.
It is, and that's if it's good enough for Bobcats, then it's good enough for us.
Damn right.
Yeah, Bobcats, and that leads us all perfectly into something I have to tell you about, and like really wanted to dial in for everybody because. And perhaps I can maybe even go into it more later at a later date. I actually have to hop off here in about 15 minutes. But I wanted to mention monitor calibration, and I wanted to ask you if anybody does that. And if you know what I'm talking about in the first place.
I think so, but I've been super lazy with my setup. That's why I gotta get my shitter on, position.
I sold my 2 Rocket KRK 5s to my DJ friend, and he's getting his money worth. But if I didn't live with my parents, I would totally set them up like that.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit more insight? Because
Bobcat's K system is exactly what, like, I'm specifically asking about the K system. How many people are aware of that and use it regularly? Because if you don't, I highly recommend looking into the K system if you can find information about like how to set up your speakers that way. If I want to make this a tutorial for people because I feel like it is highly underutilized and has incredible potential. And really, I feel like the benefit that it has goes far beyond producing. It has a lot of benefit for standardization. It's basically the standardization that should have existed in music from the beginning, but finally formalized by Bobcats in the 90s, or maybe even earlier than that, I think. Probably the 90s. And yeah, basically, like in broadcast, in movies and whatnot, all the speakers are calibrated. We have what's called SMPTE calibration, SMPTE standards, which are, and I'm not sure which came first, SMPTE standard or Bobcat's K system, but I know that they are very similar. SMPTE is the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. So SMPTE created, they agreed, okay, if we're all going to be producing movies, and we're all doing sound for these movies, and they're all going to be broadcast across the airwaves to TV and whatnot, we need a way to standardize the levels that are going to come out of the speakers for people. That way, they're all getting a similar experience, and we're not going to hurt anybody's ears. We're not going to deafen people. We're not going to. The dialogue will still be intelligible. The speakers won't blow up. It's going to be consistent between TV shows and movies. And so they created standardization for that. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up is the K system because it's very similar. It's just for music instead of for film. And what that has to do with is how you can and should, I believe, carefully calibrate your studio monitors to a standard like the K system. And what that really means is playing a specially calibrated pink noise file out of your speakers, and you're going to have an SPL meter. And so what you're doing is you're playing this specially calibrated pink noise file. Well, let's talk about what this pink noise file actually is. Okay, so first it's pink noise, so we know what that is. It's just noise at 3 dB per octave, with a slope at 3 dB per octave. But the calibration for it means that it's it's 3 dB per octave, or the peak noise file rather, plays back at some value, some predetermined value of RMS on a digital full-scale meter. So, or a analog meter. So for example, let's say that you play back sound, you play back this pink noise file on your DAW, and your DAW's displaying the RMS of that pink noise file at, let's say, negative 20 dB. The K-system is where you attribute an arbitrary value below 0 as your new 0, and you treat that like your new 0. And you turn up your speakers at the same time to play back at that level at a predetermined SPL. And that way you know when your RMS level is at that whatever value you've chosen. Like I'm going to use 20, negative 20. You know that when you see RMS of negative 20 on your master fader, or any channel for that matter, you know that what's coming out of your speakers is 85 dB or 83 dB SPL. And it's a way of glancing at the meters and knowing without a shadow of a doubt exactly what SPL you are hearing in your room. And why this is so critical is that, one, if you're mastering with transients in mind, if you want to make things punchy and you don't want to clip the crap out of everything, then that's huge because you now have 20 dB of headroom before you hit digital 0. First of all, that's amazing. And it's mixed plenty loud enough, like the average level, the average level is negative 20, so that's like 83 dB. That's pretty loud. And if you go above that, and if you have RMS of, let's say, full tilt at 0 or like near 0, like a Noisia track or something, you know that what you're hearing is close to 104 dB or 103 dB because it's 20 dB above the 83 that you calibrated to. So literally the dB on your DAW is correlating to an SPL in your room. So this is huge because it now allows you ultimate perspective. You don't need LUFS anymore. You don't need you don't need that because you've calibrated your stuff to an SPL in the room. I mean, granted, LUFS are very, very helpful, and we're still going to use the crap out of them. But you do not need them in the same way. And this is really, really helpful. So what this also allows is a better understanding of replay gain, which is the algorithm that Spotify and Tidal and YouTube and Pandora and whoever the fuck else are all using to calibrate their listening. That negative 14 that they standardize things to, negative 14 LUFS, that is not an arbitrary number. And to show you this, if you all want to click on that YouTube link that actually, you know what? Here, actually, you don't even need to click on YouTube. I'm just going to share my screen because I forgot that I could do that. Let me share my screen here. Boom. So everybody should be able to see the screen. And what I am going to do...
10-4.
All right, perfect. So what I'm going to do here is just talk about this. This is the reference level for the replay gain algorithm. And reading this is a technical page for the specification for replay gain. We learned something interesting when we get down here to reference level. And we read here that the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, or SMPTE, says that the standard states that a single channel pink noise with an RMS level of 20 dB relative to full scale should be reproduced at 83 SPL. Okay. So replay gain adapts the SMPTE calibration concept for music playback, and it talks about how measured using procedures of loudness measurement matches the pink noise signal with an RMS of negative 14 relative to full scale. What this means is that if negative 20 is 83 dB coming out of your speakers for the SMPTE, if your speakers are calibrated, then Spotify, because it uses this negative 14 mark on a calibrated system, means that's 6 dB above 20. That's 6 dB above 83 SPL, which means that what's playing back out of your speakers is 89 dB all the time. That's why Spotify chose -14. It has nothing to do with some arbitrary value for loudness units. It has everything to do with calibrated monitor levels. And not enough people know this, or not enough people talk about this. So that's what I wanted to bring up, because this is almost identical in every way to the K system. I mean, I don't actually know the difference between this and the K system, because Bobcat's K system just says pick a SPL for your speakers to play at some volume on your meters, and then calibrate them by playing a pink noise file that is set to have an RMS at that value. And then from then on, I just leave my monitor controller all the way up a lot of the time if I need to mix in that way. And if I want to make sure that I have plenty of transient data, I just crank my speakers. And I know, like, you have to know where, I have a UAD, that's what makes this whole thing possible, but because it's easy to see exactly what level I'm sending out of the speakers at that point digitally. But, so for example, how you actually set this up, I will run through sometime. I will show you how that whole system works. But essentially, this is why people calibrate their speakers. If you have a calibrated system, if people are standardizing their masters to -14, it's always going to play back at 89 SPL through your speakers anywhere in the world. 89 SPL. How dope is that? that's the real reason for it. It's always.
Where do I subscribe?
What's that?
Let me subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to the YouTube
You're
channel.
a fan. I'm a fan. Let's go.
Yeah. So
Take me on that ride.
So
Frank, can you put this?
Yeah.
Can you put this link in the chat?
For sure.
I'm definitely gonna have to sit down and look at this for a second. There's all sorts of formulas and stuff going on.
Totally. And this is not the K system. I want to specify that. This is not the K system. This is simply replay gain. This is how replay gain, the algorithm that normalizes all the stuff that everybody uses, is piggybacking off of monitor calibration in the first place to maintain consistent levels at a healthy level, at a pretty moderately loud level, actually. I mean, 89 dB that's pretty loud. It's loud enough anyway, across every playback system that actually is calibrated. But here's the thing. Who the fuck calibrates their speakers that you know? I only know like 3 people that do it, but they're all like high-end engineers. Actually, all the high-end engineers I know do it. I do it.
Oh, wait, I got 3.
Yeah,
Bobcats,
you know 3. Bobcats.
Clint Moody. Seth Trey.
I don't know. So I don't think Seth actually does this. I actually have been wanting to talk to him about this. He and I haven't gotten to chat about it, but I'm sure he will once he, Also, there's not a really strong need for him to do it because of the way he works. He probably won't have a need to. He's not working with excessively transient data in the first place, and actually advocates for going over 0. So that's his workflow, and that's totally fine. And honestly, if you're not careful and you have your system set up this way, it can really screw you, because if you play YouTube, it's going to be at full scale and it's going to blow your head off. Like, it is going to be very loud. So you have to make sure that like no ads play. You have to be very careful, very cognizant of the levels that are actually playing back digitally. Because, for example, since I have my speakers calibrated, I have mine calibrated such that on console, which I don't know if I can pull up right now because my Apollo isn't connected to this laptop, but I will try. Okay, yeah, here it is. Here's the console application. This is UAD's management software for their audio interfaces. The console application, as you see here, has a digital readout for its monitor level. This is what makes it very easy to do. So when I played back that calibrated pink noise file through my speakers, which my pink noise file was set to an RMS of -20. I did so with my volume turned all the way up, just full tilt, all the way open. And so I go around to the back of my speakers, I turn up one at a time with an SPL meter in the room at listening position, a calibrated microphone like this for anybody who is watching the YouTube channel right now. This is a UMIC 1 microphone. So I had this set up at listening position, and turned off one speaker, went to the other side, turned up the volume on the back of the speaker until the SPL meter read 79 dB. I turned off that speaker, went to the other one, did the same thing till both are playing back at 79 dB on their own. when I play them or thereabouts. And then when they combine together, their SPL combined is 83 dB SPL. And I did so, like I said, with my monitor level at 0. Why did I do that? Well, it's very easy. It's like it's full open, no attenuation. I just turn it all the way up and forget about it. And I know for a fact that the loudest level that is going to possibly come out of my speakers is 104 dB, period. Unless I really, really damage my speakers. Or I really have something that's over 0 digitally and blah, blah, blah. But really, because you've calibrated it, you know where it's at. Now, I have to be careful, and when I'm normally working, I turn this down -20. And this is not to be confused with the -20 that was used to set it up. I turn it down -20 because now I know that the loudest sound possible to come out of my speakers is only ever going to be 20 dB below 104, or in my case, 83 dB SPL. So I always know that I can mix for a really long time on these speakers because I know where 79 dB is or thereabouts. It's just a couple dB RMS below digital full scale when my monitor controller is set to -20. So basically, it's a way of calibrating your stuff so that the loudest, so you always know kind of what is playing out of your speakers and what will, where your levels tend to be. So high-end mastering engineers like Bob Katz, Matt Davis, Bob Mack, all are, and I'm sure Seth probably even has done this. I'm not sure that he still does. I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a long time about this, but this is a really powerful thing for a lot of reasons, mostly related to standardization. And that way, when people ask you, and let me talk about why it's powerful. Like, okay, you have a song, I have a song. My mix, I just rinsed with compression. I just slammed the crap out of it, okay? Your song, you chose a more natural approach. It's like a rock song. You wanted it to pop and snap, has plenty of dynamic range. Let's say you're chilling at like -9, -10 LUFS. Cool. My song is, let's say, -4 dB. Okay? That just means it's more compressed and very limited. Now, we play those back through Spotify. What it's going to do is it's going to take my song, which is -12. Let's say my song is -4 LUFS. That's pretty loud. That's pretty darn loud. It's going to turn it down to -14, 10 dB. Okay? But at the end of the day, if our speakers are calibrated appropriately, your song and my song are both going to be playing at average at 89 dB SPL, regardless of how compressed mine is, regardless of how compressed yours is. But the difference is that because mine is incredibly compressed and yours is not, mine will still sound slightly more energetic, if not less punchy, right? It's because I'm still sacrificing impact for perceived loudness, for consistent higher peak to average ratio. But the sound actually coming out of the speakers is still only playing back at 89 dB. And this is why it almost doesn't matter. You can still have incredibly loud music sound incredibly good and hype on a calibrated system or playback through Spotify at -14, because if your speakers are calibrated, and they don't always have to be, it's still going to be playing the same level output as an uncompressed track, like because of the normalization happening. So the only difference that you're really hearing is ultimately compression and dynamic range. So it almost doesn't make sense to like try to go loud because you're losing punch. The only time it matters to go loud is if you are, like Seth said this on the mastering episode where he's talking about, or one of the mastering episodes where he's talking about normalization. I actually just made a YouTube video that will probably be up pretty soon about that. It's like a snippet from one of the best practices archives when he's talked about loudness and streaming normalization. When he talked about how that only matters if you are mixing and mastering for a system that is normalized at the end anyway. But if you are mixing for a system that is not normalized, such as digital distribution, then yeah, go loud, because people are going to be turning it back. They have control over the volume knob, not you. So yeah, go loud then, right? So I just wanted to share this with you because I felt like this was insightful, potentially not known, and definitely something to take a look into, especially if you want to know more about calibration and kind of why we do these things in the first place, because ultimately, I feel like it's beneficial to do so, to like have control over your monitoring environment in a more tactile way, in a more foundational way, right? So, yeah, I just felt like everybody should probably know about those things. And K System is Bobcats's, what I'll call it. Well, it's his method for doing that in music. So.
Calibration.
Yeah, it's his calibration, which is basically identical to SMPTE. So.
Yeah, that would be so useful because, like, I mean, like, because, like, to turn this, like, your calibration on and off would be really useful because, like,
yeah,
you could master for distribution and then turn the calibration on and then remaster for streaming, right?
Exactly. And you don't even, it's not really even like like an on and off thing. Just if the fact that you know what, like, just knowing that it's calibrated in the first place gives you the freedom to just do the decisions freely without it, right? You can just turn your output down, like you said, you know, like, I guess it is kind of like turning it off, where like I have console or whatever, you can just turn that down and then there you go. Yeah, it's pretty great. Very, very cool. Like I said, it's gotten me in trouble a couple occasionally when playing back YouTube through when the monitor control is cranked. But ultimately, you know, it's really worthwhile, I think. Actually, speaking of monitor controllers that are Freak Noir, he just left. I was going to talk about him.
I feel like it's
there he is. He's back.
Push to talk.
Oh yeah, maybe? Dave, it's push to talk.
Go to your little cog.
Oh yeah.
Your name.
Yeah.
And
so
I sign a
so Freak Noir, actually, his studio is really, really dope, by the way. It was his studio that we helped build, Seth and I helped build in Maryland. But there's monitor controllers like his that are really advanced in a way where you've got the ability to, on the monitor controller itself, it has an SPL meter, and it will display for you, when properly set up, like the actual SPL that the speakers are playing back, which is really cool. For anybody that doesn't have that, then the K System is kind of like the way to do that. It's really, really cool. And actually, there's great YouTube videos on the K System and kind of how it came to be, what you can do with it, and how to set it up. There's definitely some videos out there. Hi, Dave. It's all good. He is lurking right now.
Might be figuring out what the commands are for push to talk, like I was, because
yes, yeah, Dave, push to talk if you feel like chatting. It's an unfortunate reality. We have to have push to talk, but
yeah.
And actually, honestly, I do have to jump pretty soon anyway. It is getting late. I've been up for way too long, and I need to eat supper. So, you guys call it supper or dinner? Let me ask that. I'm curious.
I call it the night meal.
The night meal? I call it the night meal.
I call it both.
The night meal. That's great. Yeah. So that.
Mr. says,
yep.
One thing. My audio cut out.
Oh, okay.
I got booted from Discord right as you were explaining when Seth uses Xenon and when he uses Pro L2.
When he needs incredibly transparent limiting, because Pro L2 still has a sound. It's very good. It still has somewhat of a sound. So, and I don't think Pro L. Let me see. Let me open up Pro L real quick and let me see here. Does Pro L have stereo unlinking? Because I feel like it doesn't.
I think it does.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay, I hope so, because I mean it should, honestly, but a part of me is somewhat under the impression that it doesn't, and I don't know why. If I go to, so that's the advanced tab. Okay, yep. Oh, wait, there it is. Channel linking. Yeah, channel linking for transients, channel linking for release. Of course, that's what that is. All right, yeah, it does. But
even
still,
if it didn't, it wouldn't stop us.
Even if it didn't, it's still great. And Xenon, which I don't believe I have on this machine. Maybe I do. Wait. Yes, PSP Xenon. Yeah, Xenon is stellar. I mean, in absolutely every way. It is a very, very clear, very transparent limiter. I really don't have enough good to say about it. It's so good. So check it out. Download the demo. It is worth a demo for sure.
So I noticed that you ain't pushing the talking, bruh. Like, what's the hacks?
Admin.
Oh yeah. Authority.
Authority. So that is the only hacks you need is admin privileges. Honestly, and the only reason I'm not too is because I have a gate. I have a gate on my voice, and then B, I have headphones on. And the only reason we did the forced push to talk is because not everybody's familiar with Discord, and sometimes their environments make it really difficult to have conversations if there's like TV on in the background, people yelling, or if there's a party nearby, stuff like that. So
you don't want to hear the Foley sounds of me peeing in my toilet.
As much as what I do, actually, I really do. I really do. Record those, please.
Splice sample pack coming
It
soon.
can be a riser.
Lost and found sounds.
Yeah, exactly. Freesound.org. So I'm actually hearing feedback right now, so I don't know who's
I was just holding my radio open for fun.
Hey, there he is. What's up?
What's up, guys?
Yo.
So the monitor controller I have is a Grace 905.
Yeah, that's what it was. I knew it was a Grace. I couldn't remember the model number. Does it is it accurate, or do you need to calibrate it for it to be like SPL accurate?
In that room, because we did so much already, it's just accurate.
Okay.
So I'm sure that sometimes you would have to, but based on where it sits and where it's sitting in conjunction with monitors, like because it's on listening position center, like it's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Fantastic room. And if anybody hasn't seen that room, Dave, if you want to post some pictures, that would be dope. I'm actually
it's all on Instagram at Freak Noir, and you can
pop that in the chat. Pop that in the Chat Town chat channel. Yeah, at Freak Noir.
Literally just followed.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
actually, I'm going. Actually, this is the East Coast studio. I'm going back to the West Coast, and I got to grab my camera. And when I do that, I will take a bunch of high-res pictures, both for Instagram, but also for Seth and Clint's portfolios, because I've been meaning to do that for a while.
Yeah, actually, that's something we have to I have to get all those pictures that I do have together tonight, actually, for Seth, for the new studio build.
Where on the West Coast are you dropping in? I'm assuming probably LA, right?
No, I don't. I hate that place. I hope it dies in a fire with bees. I'm just kidding. Truckee, California.
I actually don't know where that is. I'm a recent transplant Californian myself. So is it near the Bay?
Sort of. It's north. Truckee is the backcountry ski and snowboarding capital of the lower 48. It's on the northern tip of Lake Tahoe. So it's near Squaw Valley Resort, which was like where the Olympics were in the 80s.
Nice.
Oh, actually, I haven't been up there yet to Tahoe. I've been meaning to do that.
Yeah, I'm a big winter sports person, and have a little place out there.
Nice. Heck yeah. I gotta hop. I have to go eat supper. I am very, very, very hungry. So
I need to send you the update thing. It's I just want you to hear it before I go into Mixdown land.
Okay, is that tonight or sometime in the future?
It's ready. I'll just send it to you. You can listen to it whenever. I know. Great. I have a list. I listened to it earlier and made a bunch of notes, but I'd love to hear what you say before I spend a weekend mixing them out.
Yeah. The one condition I have is just send a reference with it.
No.
Do it.
I won't.
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for hanging in here and being part as always. So I will catch everybody real soon. If of course anybody has any questions, feel free to hit me up. Lots of good things on the way very, very soon. I promise that for sure. And by the way, did everybody like the interview the other day with Zach? Because I want to see.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Back.
Oh, okay, good. That's something that I've been meaning to ask.
Yeah, I wasn't kidding. Like the specific scenario that he explained like with the example that he gave and like with the people he used as like the example, that was like I needed that information, like very much so, like very, very big a lot.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah. Yeah, like it was really important because like I have like a lot of creative projects that I have in mind using like my artist name as a pun. And like for example, the way I plan on titling my remixes and covers, it'll be like you know, my perspective on insert title, insert artist name.
That's
And then
cool. That's cool.
yeah, so that'll be how I format remixes. And because of that, I know I'll be remixing and covering a lot.
Yeah.
So him giving that information is like, oh, but like if Myper covers this thing that Alexandra and me and Clint made and yada yada, all these, it's like, oh, perfect.
Oh, that's literally a perfect
scenario.
example. That's great.
Yeah, I was like, great. Like you have no idea how important information is for me.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's, I'm so happy everybody enjoyed that, because that was I knew that would be beneficial to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, because and honestly, there were so many things I could ask Zach about. I didn't really know where to begin because he's got such experience in so many different areas. I mean, he was worked with Gary Sinise, like that. Like, I don't know if anybody knows that until then, but like Gary Sinise, Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump, like he has a jazz band that he tours with, and it's awesome. And yeah, like Zach is a multi-talented individual and easily one of my favorite people on the planet. So definitely worthwhile getting him to come on the show, and I definitely will be bringing him back as soon as his new project starts dropping some stuff. So happy everybody enjoyed that. Awesome. Well, if anybody has any stuff you want to send me or any questions, feel free to hit me up as always. And if anybody's checking out this YouTube video after the fact, get in the Discord, get live on these conversations, join us, get your questions answered, join us for the Hangout. Link in the description. And yeah, you guys feel free to hang out in here and talk as long as you want. I will talk to you soon.
Yeah. Well, it's like 11 for me, so I'm gonna pop off for sure.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. East Coast life.
East Coast
Dinner,
life.
man.
Where you
All right.
guys at on the East Coast?
North Carolina for me, man, and I'm gonna be waking up in about 6 hours for work tomorrow. It was
Akron,
worth
Ohio.
it though. It was worth it.
Ohio, we got North Carolina, we've got Maryland, we've got and we have India actually at one point. There's Hellbrock. The Hellbrock is he's in India. We have somebody I think in France, and yeah, there's people all over the world. Actually, we have students in Australia. It's great. The approach is global.
Freak Noir. I used to live in Maryland for the longest time. I don't know what genre your project is, but
I'm out.